Hi there, Klaus Hessler here. I'm excited to announce that I'll be doing an online segment for the Valley Percussion Festival next Saturday, July 3rd, including rudiments, smaller technique, and some drum set applications. Hi there, Klaus Hessler here. I'm excited to announce that I'll be doing an online segment for the Valley Percussion Festival next Saturday, July 3rd, including rudiments, smaller technique, and some drum set applications, including a little PDF for you to study along with me. Spread the word with your drumming buddies. Excited to see you there online. Until then, be safe and see you next Saturday, okay? July 3rd, Valley Percussion Festival. Yee-hoo! Off you go.
Hi, my name is Robert Boteo, and I wanted to give a shout out to the Valley Percussion Festival, formerly known as the Valley Day of Percussion. It's an honor for me to talk to you about the history of this event. I started this event in the 1990s, and the reason why I started is because I was a percussion teacher, and I took all of my percussionists from high school to junior high to beginners. I took them all on a bus. And we went up to Austin, Texas, and I went to go visit my former teacher, George Frock, at the University of Texas. They were having a Texas PAS Day of Percussion. And at that Day of Percussion, there was people like Tom Ongst, Michael Burritt, Lamar Burkhalter, and Greg Mizonet, just to name a few. My kids had a great time. And it was awesome that my boss, Arturo Valdez, was able to invest in my kids to go up there and see this event. My kids got so much from it. They were so excited. So on the way back home, I started thinking to myself, why can't I bring an event like this to the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas? So thus, the Day of Percussion was born, and we've had the best percussionists in the world. I think we've affected thousands of students and teachers, and they've seen just awesome events. Now, this event would not be possible without the support of all the band directors in the Rio Grande Valley and in South Texas. And it would not be possible without Jim Melhart and Melhart's Music Center. It wouldn't be possible for somebody that motivating me to do this, like Lauren Vogel Weiss. But with all these teachers and band directors helping me, it has come to the event that it is today. And I'm so happy that Gilbert Garcia is handling this tradition, and now we're bringing this event to the world. Again, a great shout out. Keep it up. And one more thing I want to say is it's so awesome that we can have a percussion hang and keep percussion strong even in the midst of a world pandemic. Keep it going, guys. Take care.
Hello, guys. Super excited, super stoked about today's segment. Talk about shrinking the world, figuratively, and maybe not, maybe literally shrinking the world. bringing world-class percussion education to our device, to our home, to our office, wherever you may be watching. Guys, every time that we do a stream, it personally makes me very excited to know that we get to share, you know, these artists, these educators that are doing it at a very high level get to share with us. And before, we used to have to travel, like Mr. Boteo said. He had to travel in a bus to go and see something like this. But today, it is not the case. Guys, many of us, we go and attend Drum Corps International DCI events to watch and learn from the very best. And today I am hugely honored, humbled to have with us one of the finest front ensemble staffs in the world. Without further ado, we have Mr. Randy Sifuentes and Shelby Shelton from the Cavalier Drum and Bugle Corps Front Ensemble staff. Guys, I am super stoked to have you here today. I am super excited. Personally, I'm geeking out right now. I even though we've talked a bit and we've shared some ideas, and I've heard you talk about some juicy gold nuggets already in prep for this, but I'm geeking out. I'm ready to learn. And you know, I like to go and catch the replays on our streams, but you can be sure, guys, and we've had some fine artists here, but you can bet your salary that this one is one I'm gonna be replaying a lot. I am super stoked. Shelby, Randy, welcome, guys.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yep. Thanks, man.
Yeah. So are we good to kind of just kick off?
Yes, we're in it. Yes,
awesome,
yes.
Man. Well, very cool. Thank you for having us. And Rick is obviously off with the Cavaliers. He's first in line, so he's out in the cornfields with the guys. So he did his portion by providing the video that will be featuring the Cavaliers Front Ensemble members playing for us. And we'll kind of save that for the latter half of this.
Yes.
But I figured, and Shelby and I kind of chatted about like the most beneficial thing for all parties involved and in terms of how to address this clinic. And so one of those things being just that, you know, we kind of go over like the audition process and what is that we look for, what makes an auditionee successful, and how to kind of just like stay in it while sometimes it may look like you're on the cut list, but you're really not, and what separates you from being off of the cut list, if that makes sense, and then if you are cut, I mean, to always just come back, you know. Our biggest thing is we don't ever like just cut people from the Cavaliers Front Ensemble and just say, well, it was a great weekend, we will never see you again. That's not what we want. We want to see you again. So that's one of the first things we wanted to talk about is just the audition process. Shelby, I don't know if you want to chime in on that.
Yeah. If you're a kid and you're watching this and you want to be in a drum corps and maybe you've gone to an audition already or maybe you haven't, just know that like the number one thing we want to see out of the weekend is how well do you take instruction? How well are you being flexible and willing to adjust to maybe a new technique or maybe criticism, or like where is your mindset at in terms of being a little sponge that just soaks up any information that's thrown at you? Yeah. So, and obviously also on that list is how prepared are you when you show up for camp? I would tell my students that are going to any kind of audition, even if it's a college audition, drum corps, whatever, you better be ready to play your music like frontwards and backwards. And if they say start in the middle, you say what beat, what partial, what beat. Just make sure that you don't get caught off guard. Because I think like going to my first drum corps camp, as a kid, I mean, I showed up and I was clueless, and I felt unprepared, and I felt like, what am I even doing here? And my weekend might have been a lot better if I had had somebody telling me, okay, well, play it for me now, and let's see how it's going to be once you're in that audition and you're nervous. So play in front of people before you go to the camp, maybe to get your nerves up just a little bit, be over prepared, and just be open to like anything that comes your way. Even if they say, hey man, hold the stick backwards and move it like that, just try it. Maybe there's some reason to what they're telling you, no matter where you end up going. Yeah. What else, Randy? What else is the kid that stands out when you come to a camp and you're like, wow?
So I'm a big fan of the little things. So how well they adapt to a drum corps schedule. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I generally do not play for 4 hours straight for fun. And that kind of pressure on your hands can sometimes just wither away the brain. And you can almost tell, for me as a staff member, as I give feedback to a student, when I know they heard what I said, but they really didn't hear what I said because they're so busy with like, my hands are sore right now because I'm playing for a much longer period of time than I'm normally used to playing, and that's understandable. But at the same time, it's expected. So I do look for like the lifestyle. Like, are you ready for this lifestyle of playing X amount of time? Now, we're not going to break your hands and, we see you bleeding and we're like, do it again. We're just done. We want to take a very methodical approach and a pedagogical approach in these first few camps of building you up appropriately. But we also need to see a drive from the individual, from the student. And so those are things that I look for as well. The other thing I look for too is the first rep of the day. Are you able to come off of sleeping off of a gym floor to eating breakfast that may not be like I don't know, a bacon cheese omelet, and you have to like start eating some PB&Js or whatever. And so it's like there's all these little things that affect your brain. And then when I ask you, okay, now let's play our first warm up of the day, I want to see you click on. I just want to see you turn it on. And so and for me, those are the things that will outlive or outlast maybe somebody who comes in as a hot shot, but I can just see them withering out through the weekend, where I'm just like, man, like, Friday, you were so good. And Sunday, I can tell you cannot wait to just go back home.
Yep.
And then you also see the opposite, where I see somebody on Friday where I was like, let's see what they can do. And then they're just tough as nails. And so I think a lot of this for me is your mental toughness. And we talked a little bit about that in our promo about just being a mental tank. That no matter what it is that's coming your way and the challenges that we're throwing at you, that you're still able to intercept them and digest them and then throw them out as best as you can. Because for the level of player that we're looking for, we don't want to have to ask you multiple times to do a very basic thing. Now, I understand why that would take place, because you're tired, your hands are sore. Like I said, you heard me, but you didn't digest it, and you're not really pushing forward to get things done. And so those are things that we look for at the Cavaliers Front Ensemble is are you able to take on the drum corps lifestyle? And that's a challenge in itself. I can promise you, everyone who's had their first year of drum corps, that's probably the biggest thing they're struggling with is they're probably talented enough to be in the group well, and they'll, whatever. I bet if we gave these guys 6 days off of the week and then gave them the seventh day, I bet they'd be super mentally healthy, I suppose. But the challenge is just, being away from your family, being away from just doing a lot of external things that don't have anything to do with music. So it's like, can you dive in completely? And do you have the mental toughness to just be able to rep, eighth notes at 80 over and over again? And do you have enough capacity to be able to dissect yourself as well? To tell yourself, do I have the same tone and approach and weight from my right hand to my left hand? Am I being that picky? And the biggest thing that I always challenge students and even the Cavaliers Front Ensemble is like, are you really catching everything? Because this subject that we're talking about, I mean, it's a rabbit hole. Once you go down it, I mean, you're going to start finding a lot of things about yourself. But if you're just counting down the time and waiting till lunch comes and then dinner comes and then sleep block and all that, I mean, why pay the tuition to be that level of player?
Yeah.
So
that's wasting everybody's time. That's selfish.
Right. And Shelby and I have marched with people like that, and I've taught people like that too, and it's tough for those guys, especially for their first years. And so as you kind of prepare for coming in to audition for the group, being prepared with your audition material, that's a given. Like, obviously, if you're flying out or you're driving out to Rosemont, Illinois, and you're paying the fees to go to the DCI camp and paying the fee for the music, I would assume that you're gonna want to show up with the music memorized and it prepared front and backwards, and those are things that those are obvious for us. Like, yes, we want to see that. We also want to see you. We want to see how much dexterity you have, how much muscle you have, like how far we can push you. We want to know what kind of tool we have, what kind of tools you bring to our front ensemble. But for me personally, I see a lot of that. And while that may be impressive, I also see a lot of students through the weekend, they just kind of deteriorate and they just kind of fall apart. And so, Shelby, I don't know, do you have any some tips on how to kind of best prepare for that?
I don't know, man. I thought of two more things.
Go for it.
Number one, the deteriorating thing. I do feel like I see a lot of students cut themselves throughout the weekend. And what I mean by that is just like Randy said, we start off the weekend great, they're fired up, and then they start sizing people up and saying, oh man, they're better than me, or I'm not going to make it. I'm not good as this guy. I'm not as good as this guy. And so then by Sunday or even by Saturday, they're mentally not performing as well as they should because they're in their head about negative stuff. So just know that in an audition, it's kind of normal for people to feel like that. And really, if you try to do the opposite and trick yourself into saying nope, I belong here, this is my spot, I'm ready for this, then that shows up. And we see that, and we see that hunger. And that's what we need in the middle of July whenever it's hot. And it's this is the 100th time we've played this, but I still need you hungry for more. So first of all, I think a lot of kids also say, oh yeah, I'm going to that audition. I'm going to audition for the Cavaliers, but then they don't go do it. Or they learn the packet with a friend and then at the last minute they don't go. So number one, make it to the camp. Number two, while you're at the camp, stay focused and stay have that attitude of you are Superman, you deserve the spot, not arrogantly, but have nothing stand in your way. And then, yeah, that's your spot. You belong there. The other thing I thought of, it was mental toughness. I don't know. Oh, the getting cut thing. So we mentioned that at the beginning, like we don't want you to not make it and then we never see you again. I feel like, man, anywhere I've taught, there have been kids that come back year after year after year, and more often than not, they get a spot. Maybe it's their second year, maybe it's their third year, but if you get cut from somewhere, don't be the kid that's like, oh, well, I'm never going back there because they didn't want me and so I'm out. No, work on yourself and come back and try it again, and if it's really what you want, then make it happen.
Mhm.
Yeah,
For sure. Okay, sorry, I'm hearing like kind of a boom here grow.
oh, it also might, I got a train behind my house.
Oh, okay, that'll explain. All right.
That.
Yeah, and apparently the street that I live on is it's a racetrack.
Cool.
So yeah, we've all got, I guess, people, right? But yeah, no, I definitely agree to all that, and so that kind of like lists some of the things that we look for. I think also kind of talking about people who just kind of cut themselves is when people get like really disheartened when we tell them we want to see you at the next camp again. I'm not offering you a contract. I want to see you again. And guys, like that can take quite a few camps to get to that point. And I mean, at the Cavaliers Front Ensemble, every year, even since I was marching, we've always had somebody drop, even in the middle of the season, you know, and then we end up bringing somebody in last minute who was like somebody who just kept getting reinvited back. And you don't want to be that guy who just stops showing up, because we've had a lot of people who just stop showing up. They're like, well, what's the point? And it's like, trust me, like you're right there at the edge. And honestly, if you really want to know what's the point, we just want to see you be undeniable. If you just show up and you're undeniable, there's no reason for us to be having you come back over and over again. But if you're on that bubble list, I mean, that's just the process for that particular list, because that's always the hardest list for us to sift through. It's pretty easy for us to tell who's in the center three marimbas, who's a xylophone player, who's going to be the inside vibe players, timpanist, like it's pretty straightforward. But it's that bubble group that you're going to have just a lot of mental toughness to yourself and say, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep pushing and pushing. And like I mentioned, we always have somebody, just because it's life, we always have somebody drop, whether right before the season starts or within pre-tour, which is the first month of the season. Because remember, I also talked about, sometimes the life of DCI can be a little startling for some people. And we've had people who are just like, hey, you know what? This wasn't what I wanted to do after all. And we understand that. So that's where we give you a holler on I guess while we're talking about that. So I feel like, unless Shelby, you have anything else to say on that, I can kind of segue.
No, I think I'm good.
Cool. So now we get to kind of chat about like what it is that we kind of preach to the guys but before we even start talking about the playing. So for me, I've told this to high school students. I told, man, like, I don't know if you go to church or if you don't go to church, or if you looked at a picture of a church, whatever, you don't see like hot Cheeto bags on the floor. You don't see like cell phones. You don't see those things. Usually it's really regimented and very very clean. Everything's super tight, man. When you step into our area of the front ensemble, like I want it to be so religious that everything just looks super, super tight. I don't care if our instruments were given to us brand new that year, or if they're 20 years old. They need to look like they're brand new. So a lot of that kind of comes to like, what do we allow as a front ensemble staff? And I encourage educators to do the same thing with your pits. Is, if you get the students to understand, hey, look, I don't care how busted down this thing is, you're going to take some pride in it. And if it's scratched up, it's beat up, here's a black Sharpie. Like, I mean, I'm serious. I mean, it's spit and polish. I mean, the 80s, the 70s, 80s, 90s drum corps did it all the time. And we still do it. we try and line everything up. We want everything to look brand new. And so if the student is already receiving this concept of, you're not going to disrespect that instrument, I need you to take really good care of it, well, that minimizes that chance of the student coming up to you and saying, oh, by the way, I was just jerking my instrument around and I hit the doorway, and now the bass end of the instrument is cracked in half. And it's like, great.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to hear. So I don't know, Shelby, I'm sure you have lots to show on that.
Yeah, especially like when you're at drum corps and you're on tour and it's like the middle, like I could not imagine that not being something that we talk about with the amount of sound equipment that we are responsible for and how expensive the instruments that we play are. And also, okay, so first of all, let's talk just very briefly about the electronic care, and just how, like, as that grows and as that becomes more and more part of what we do, you got to find a way to talk to the students about how they're responsible for that and how big of like how important it is to the drum corps or to your marching band and how expensive it is. And I do think that PIC kids like can get nerdy about that and can get excited about audio equipment and can learn, like if they're younger, maybe they figure out, hey, this is something I'm into and they want to do it in the future. But respect for that and respect for your own instrument also just makes the playing just as I'm trying not to say church, just as sacred, just as, like detail oriented. If your board looks clean, then maybe your notes are clean, or at least hopefully. Something that one of my teachers used to say to me a lot, and I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard, is the perception is reality thing, which basically just means that if you roll up and you're watching a front ensemble in the lot, and when you walk up, there's like Cheetos on the ground, or like there's their mallet bag, the straps hanging out, and there's a big, you automatically in your head have a preconceived notion of what you're going to hear or what you're going to see. And same thing if I see, if you see people like moving to the show and they're like joking around and they're pushing their boards all over the place, that looks different than seeing a group like pushing a straight line, really focused, ready to go do their job. And those little things carry onto the field and they carry onto your performance. And if we compare that to real life, like think about you going to a job interview and looking sloppy versus going in all disciplined in the right mindset. I don't know. I'm big on that's what we're trying to do for the kids is, yes, make them awesome musicians, but just really make them better people. And all these little details and these little focus things, that's what has helped me so much as I've grown up. Most of it I learned in band.
Yeah. Right. Well, and for me, like I've judged some competitions, and people don't know it's that I'm a judge, and I generally show up to events really early because I'm like paranoid I'm gonna be late, and so I get kind of bored. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go see these kids unload because I'm a nerd like that, and I can't tell you, like, I knew certain groups weren't gonna do so well just because I saw literally pizza on the instrument and I was just like, I know. Yeah, I mean, and it just freaks me out. I was like, man, like there's no respect for the instrument. Oh my goodness. I mean, and how's the lifetime of that instrument supposed to like live its way out? And so many times that I actually end up sometimes curiously asking later the director, like, how old are your instruments? Oh, they're 3 years old. And I'm like, they look 50 years old.
Yeah.
Like they look beat. And so really just kind of getting those little things, as Robert Mateos mentioned, little details like that, all that stuff adds up at the end and it brings itself to the rehearsal. Perfect example. If you don't know to be rotating your string, prior to rehearsal, and you just allow your string to be broken in rehearsal, now we're killing rehearsal time. Now we're killing repetition. I mean, we want to soak up as much of the seconds of the day to get better. And so if you're off in the corner there with a lighter and the string, and you're trying to, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like, yo, we need you. Like, you should have done that during lunch or dinner, or you should have also just known to, like, just shift your string over a little bit. Little trick of the trade.
Yeah,
And
can you explain that? Can you just
yeah, and and the more I talked about it, it's like, let me talk about that, because we do call it, just kind of whatever, shifting string. So essentially, where the bar is, right, and the string that kind of goes in between the bars, and it's on the teeth of the marimba or the vibraphone, right there is where all the pressure is going down on when you're hitting the bar. And so that part of the string is really the part of the string that's being withered away. The string that's still running through the middle of the bar, that's fresh. That string's fine. So at that point, what you really need to do is you just kind of unhinge the little springs on the ends of your bars there, accidentals or naturals, and you just kind of shift the string over about 1 inch. That's really all you need to do. And then now you're playing on fresh string. And so it's important to be doing that, especially in drum corps. You need to be doing that every day, because we're beating those instruments like a lot. And so for the scholastic setting or the academic setting, honestly, I had my guys be doing it every three days. But I know sometimes people say 3 to a week, but it definitely needs to be taking place so that we're just not breaking through strings so much. And breaking string isn't also like the worst thing ever. It's not because someone's abusing the instrument. They're just playing through the instrument. That's a good thing. We want to hear you. you practice so hard. So, I mean, let's hear you. So, and so we get it. It's going to happen. But I mean, extend the lifetime of your instrument on all factors. And so, and that's just part of just being organized, just going after the little things, the details. Do you have the respect for that instrument as one would want you to? Your director or your drum corps staff would want to see that from you. And I know Shelby talked also about like how we walk. And so, for me, well, not for me, the Cavalier staff, Shelby does this too. I guarantee you, we practice coming onto the field like that is a dedicated block, because darn it, I don't want to look dumb walking out there. And as we all know as educators, if something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. Yep. And so we got to be ready for that, because those things, that's life. Things happen. And so training the students to, okay, we're going to come in with a side 1 entrance or a side 2 entrance, meaning, which end of the front ensemble is going to be pushing in from this way or this way. And then from that point, getting in the lines that in the order that we're supposed to be getting in, and then just pushing together as one unit and just staying focused. I don't know. I just want to see the intensity in the students where they're just, you can tell like they're obviously health, they're fine, but you can tell they're repping something in their head. They want to execute. They want to go after that phrase that is kind of kicking their butt, but they want it to be that show that that's going to stop tonight. Like, I'm not letting that happen. Last show, I wasn't cool with it.
Never again.
I'm definitely not letting it go. I mean, and you got to take that personally. And so all those things, like, it's all part of like the mental game. So when you're pushing on, and if you're over there like trying to play rock, paper, scissors, and it's just like, man, your show must be super clean if your brain gets to be everywhere. Because I mean, I did 5 years of drum corps, and I still wasn't like that at finals. Yeah. Even when I had the excuse to be like that, I still wasn't going to do that, because there's also younger guys in the front ensemble or gals in the front ensemble that are also looking up to me. So I really don't need to be giving off that vibe. I mean, if it's not one of those things, well, I have my show under wraps, I'm doing so well, I can therefore act as the almighty. Nope, we're a part. We are as one. We are a group. We're a team. So therefore, we will all not act like that. And yeah, we just want to emulate this idea of professionalism. Really, we just want to be taken seriously. And it is really easy to not be taken seriously and be taken for someone who's very immature or a group that's very mature versus the other way around. The other way around is it takes a long time. Drum corps that get started up, they know what it's like to, or just any group, even in an independent indoor group, like they know, like, hey man, this is gonna take a while till people start looking at our trailer and be like, oh my gosh, those guys are here. That's awesome. I can't wait to go find them. But it's because of how those groups carry themselves and how they continue to carry themselves. But that can get withered away so fast if, they're not going after the little things, the professionalism. Because the playing, I mean, trust me, if you got us in front of you, you're going to play really well. It's going to happen. And honestly, we want nothing more than to see you be a rock star. So trust me, it's a win-win situation. But things that we can't always be babysitting you with is, are you pulling your instrument from the correct side, Billy or Georgia? Or are you are you leveling your cymbal? Is your cymbal all slanted? And I'm just looking at you like, oh my goodness, like, what are we? And
hey, I was thinking, can we do a list real quick of, like, say you've never taught a front ensemble and you don't know what looks good or bad. What's the checklist of, like, okay, like, number one, we got to be in a straight line. Like, if you look down the line, if you're standing at the very end of the front ensemble, when you look down, does it look like crooked, crazy teeth, or do all the accidentals line up? And the reason for that is so that the students can look down the line and see each other and everybody can play together. But also, it's one more thing that looks clean. Like, it seems crazy, but it's the perception is reality thing. If you're looking at a pit and the keyboards are all over the place, man, if they didn't have time to line that up, they probably didn't have time to learn their music perfectly either. Okay, yeah. Keyboards in a straight line. Cymbals are straight. They're not looking really like this or like this. Sometimes there's, like, special cases depending on your setup, and, like, sometimes rack is a little bit different. With that, for me, I just don't want any cymbals on the board that are going to distract from the player. Like, I don't want the player to be hidden. A lot of times you run into that with, like, wind chimes, figuring out where to put wind chimes so they don't hide little Billy. What else? What else has to be perfect?
Oh man. So you talked about the I suppose, like, the, what do we call that? The x-axis of the cymbal being flat. I also personally want them to be relatively close to the same height from board to board as well. Yeah. I totally get it if you have. I'll be honest, man. I'm a short person. I'm like 5 foot. I think I lied on my license. It's like 5'7". I'm pretty sure I'm 5'5" or something like that. Yeah, but like, I mean, and I always stood next to really tall people, and so I mean, my cymbal was a little higher. It's okay. I'm not playing that cymbal the whole show. I hope not. If I am, I got my notes taken away. So I also would like personally to see from the cymbal being flat, but also from board to board that they're all relatively the same height. And I know something that what we do at the Cavaliers, just to go the extra mile, is instead of having, because matching the cymbal arms, like as far as like the length of the tubing, it just looks really weird when you can tell. It's like, man, which boom stand did you steal that from? Because this thing is all the way down to the tire. It's like, okay, I mean, if that's all you got, I totally get it.
You can hide those, man. Any school I've been at, you can find a way to where it doesn't look totally kind of like a garage sale. Put the long ones in the back, put them on the side. Yeah. I mean, if you have the money to do it, then get the ones that match and maybe make them a little shorter if you want that look. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like, I don't know. And yeah, and I've been in a program where I would just saw them.
I would if nobody cared. Ask the band director first, but yeah.
For sure. I ask the director for that, for sure. But so yeah, there's that. There's also like the wing nuts that are on there that actually tighten up for the cymbal arm to be there. I also like those to be horizontal as well. when you're lining up the tires, that they're exactly perfectly vertical, right? That they're all this, just the same. Everything's got to be the same, and that's easy. Like, and a lot of people, a lot of keyboard players, when they're first taught that, they're like, okay, I lined it up, and then they go running to each tire and straightening it up. Like, dude, what are you doing? All you got to do is just push forward, pull back, and they all go whoop, and then they pull back like this, and everyone's like, whoa, my mind was blown. And I'll tell you, thank you. That's what the Cavaliers pay me for. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, everything down to the tires, to the wing nuts, to the wing nut on top of the cymbal too. I mean, everything, the hardware just all has to be very, very nice and tight. And earlier I mentioned like a Sharpie. Sometimes, especially like a lot of our hardware, like the auxiliary bar is black, and sometimes it'll just kind of go through some scrapes, like in the truck. I get that, those things happen. We want to avoid it. We want to try and find ways to get our equipment to stay new as long as possible. But sometimes those things happen. And so anytime we have that, this, whether it's the drum corps, the Cavaliers drum corps, or even my own students at the shows, they know that when they pull their instrument off, they have a hand towel, a bottle of water, and a little spray bottle of water. And then they also have a Sharpie. So they're there polishing everything, making sure it all looks really nice and beautiful. And then anything that needs a little touch of a little Sharpie love, go for it and do it. I know when I brought that concept to one of my high schools, they thought that was the funniest thing ever. They're like, why don't we just get new stuff? And I was like, because you won't take care of it. You see the way it is right now? You're like, I want you to take care of it. All right, then we can have that discussion. But until then, I'm not about to give you something new. This was 3 years old, man. It should be like super spectacular. Yeah. So if y'all can't tell, obviously we haven't talked so much yet about the playing. Yeah. We're talking a lot about things that have nothing to do with the playing, but they have everything to do with the playing. And a lot of like the seasoned educators, like Robert Boteo made a comment earlier. He's super seasoned, man. Like they understand, like, no, it is the little things, like those need to get taken care of, because that is the last thing I need to be worrying about whenever I'm really trying to get into the nitty gritty, trying to get your show super nice and tight, and you're over here telling me my pedal's broken.
Yep.
Dude, that's your pedal, So and Gilbert just kind of segued into the next part. So,
but wait, I have to say one more thing.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, directors and kids and young teachers or whatever, don't feel stupid practicing this stuff. Randy kind of already said, like, we practice like moving onto the field or whatever. But if you have to take one day during band camp when the kids are tired of playing and work on, okay, we're moving over there, you got 10 minutes, it needs to be perfect when we get over there, go. Then do that and give the kids individual jobs where they know, like, okay, after you've set up all the boards, your job is to make sure all the wheels are straight, or like, it seems a little crazy, but assign the students roles to where they're totally responsible for their setup. They're responsible for, like, maybe their cables looking perfect, maybe everything being plugged in right. A lot of thought goes into who does what job. Sometimes it's based on like who's reliable. Usually it's based on their location in the front ensemble, but that stuff is not stupid to practice. It's worth it to get it down, and it's worth it to get it done like earlier in the season. So it's just the expectation.
Yeah, 100%. So coming in on time, and I think every educator at this point knows that should never be taken lightly. That's like, if you skip past that first beat, as they say in the Valley, que te vaya bien. Good luck from that point forward, because you can't. It's hard to go back. So for the front ensemble, and I'm going to state the obvious: we don't mark time, we don't dot, we don't do a stick click, boom. We don't do any of that, and so you're already, physically, you almost feel like at a disadvantage compared to like a battery member. They have a lot of these tools that are implemented into their culture that allow them to really nail the downbeat of one. And so you know, some folks will be like, well, I'm just gonna have my pit top each other off, whatever. That is an older approach, but we always try to think, okay, what is most applicable in like the real show setting? Because I know the xylophone player isn't tapping out for the ballad. I know they're not doing that. And so at that point, we try and give a lot of tools to the members to be able to sense when they're about to nail the attack and when they're about to not nail the attack. And you know, we've had groups in the past. You know, I mean, they're humans. You know, I've seen our groups right before they come in on one. I knew they were gonna blow it. I was just like, how bad they're gonna blow it, I don't know, but let's just cross our fingers and hopefully they somehow adjust to go. Yeah, and just you can see it. I mean, it's the big thing is you can see it. So how do we kind of give this front ensemble some opportunities for them to see it as well? So the first thing that I generally teach, and I'm going to kind of go a little bit more on the scholastic side, the academic side for public school teaching side of things, is I teach students there's a performing box, which is right where you play, where you stand. And there's a non-performing box where you take one step back. So recognizing the difference, the non-performing box, the performing box. Let me shut that door. Sorry, guys. And so then at that point, it's like, all right, cool. Well, now let's go ahead and practice. And I start off with just clicking them off. Let's practice stepping forward. So if you're in the non-performing box, 5, 6, and 5, 6, left foot forward, right foot forward. And when your right foot forward goes forward, your arms go from below the keyboard to push up, and you're now starting to line it all up. And so you're starting to line it all up from the motion coming up into the downbeat. Now we still have extra little things that we can still give off for sure before then, but now we're actually physically putting a left foot forward, a right foot forward. As our right foot forward, our hands come up on both sides of the keyboard, and there's a prep there and a downbeat. So 5, 6, and 5, 6, left, up, play. You know, and everything has a lot of articulate motion. Everything has to be done with confidence, man. Because if you start, dude, no way. I know you're gonna blow that attack. I mean, especially if you're scared to come in, don't be. It's like going to the doctor and saying everything hurts. Well, I don't know what I do, man. Like you gotta confidently tell me my stomach hurts, my head hurts, my whatever, something hurts. So the same thing with the front ensemble. You got to confidently come in. That would go, okay, you were early. It's real simple. Don't be afraid. Don't hide. And so that's a big thing too with coming in on one is like that you got to teach the students to just play, push through the bars. That way I know how to help you. But if you're feather tapping and if everyone's doing that, oh my goodness, it is like the students are just making it impossible for you to chase who's happening on what. Then at that point, I'm really having to rely on my vision, and there's only so much that my eyes can catch. So then the next thing that we also talk about is center. You know, what do they do? And so for my setting, there's two places that we start. One is in the non-performing box where we actually step up together and then play. And then the other one is where everyone's up, their hands are up and ready to go, and center just goes and 5 and 6 and then everyone comes in 7 and 8 and play. So there's that angle as well. So the main thing that we try and offer the students is that we give them something visual to go off of, and then them also all coming in with preps, short articulate preps. Relaxed, short, articulate preps.
Tiny.
Yes, very, very, very tiny. The bigger they make them, man, that's a lot of room for like 1 and 2, and just like, man, and you always and what I always tell the center marimba is I tell them, dude, I am not or gal, I am not concerned about the 2 people next to you coming in with you. I'm concerned about the outside vibe player way over there. Yeah, that one. That's who I'm concerned coming in on the downbeat of 1. And if you're being super like open and
Mhm.
and you're just like, well, the center three nailed it. I don't care. Like the weakest link is what we're trying to go for. We're trying to get everybody on board here. Shelby, I'm not sure if you want to kind of add to that.
Yeah, and that puts some accountability too on the outside marimbas and the outside, because if little Johnny on the end can't see all the way to the middle because he needs contacts, then he better hope that the person next to him has really articulate, really perfect preps. And really, we give all this information to students, and it is a little overwhelming, but I think the biggest thing I thought about as a player was just be a mirror. Like, just look down the line, do exactly like the person in the middle is doing, and like play in front of a mirror a lot so that you know what you look like. But yes, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about shy kids. But just be a mirror, and then you don't even have to know the dynamics. You just look at the center marimba and play whatever dynamics they're playing. You don't have to know where you prep. You just look where they're prepping and do that. I mean, should you know? Yes. But I don't know. The mirror thing is powerful to me. Real quick, you mentioned like the feather tapping and like people that are afraid to make mistakes and blah, blah, blah. Man, that is one of the hardest things that I find with students, especially younger, but even college kids. It's just getting them to be brave and just play and be wrong and be loud, and don't let your personality, even if you're kind of like a shy kid, don't let that affect your playing and dictate how you're going to play. The sooner you can get over that, the sooner you can be like get better and just keep building up your skills. So teachers obviously create the safe space to where people they can make loud mistakes and it's fine. And then those of you older kids working with younger kids, don't make it like a shameful thing when somebody goofs. Just make it like oh, that was wrong. Let's do it again. Yeah, our culture, I feel like, I don't know for sure, but I've liked the positivity that I've seen in the drum corps world in the past few years in that respect of it not being really like a competitive thing against your friends, but more just like we're all going to achieve this goal together. And if you suck and I need to help you get better, fellow teammate, then we're going to play together during lunch and I'm going to encourage you. And we need more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I completely agree with that. Yeah, we all bat for the same team.
Yeah.
And it's important for them to know that for sure. And just kind of as we kind of finish up on that topic, I think the other thing too is, and when any auditionees that come to audition at Cavaliers, like no question is a dumb question. Because remember, I earlier I talked about like how much mental toughness you need to dissect even the smallest thing. Trust me, no matter what question you're going to ask us, we were already planning on going past that question. I mean, like I said, we can't, we refuse to skip steps 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. We're going to go through every single one. So ask the question. Just ask the question. You're not dumb. You're not silly. You're not, not talented. Trust me. Like you asking a question. Well, and even sometimes for us educators, it'll remind us like, oh, I did touch up on that, but maybe I need to re-articulate that a little better.
I like that.
It's okay. Yeah, 100%. So that's kind of coming in on one.
Hey, I thought one more thing.
Go for it.
For me, the most important thing about attacks is breathing, which sounds kind of like counterintuitive because we don't play the trumpet. So why do we have to breathe before we play? But man, that is game changing within an ensemble. And I'm not even talking just breathe before you attack, but I have my students breathe in the coming up, like Randy was talking about earlier. Even if it's a slow up together, to me, that's like an inhale, exhale, then we're up. And then from the start, from the moment we take a step, we're doing everything together, even breathing together. And then your breath can also determine your touch and like what kind of notes you're about to play. So for example, if I was playing a ballad something and I was about to do a whole bunch of like block chords, I wouldn't breathe like boom, 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 boom. Probably. I'd probably do like a breath that mirrors what I'm about to play. And hopefully my teammates are going to do that too. So then we already know about the style and the note length before we even play a note, you know? But on the other hand, if it is going to be a faster passage where we all have to come in with like a and whatever, then everybody's breath needs to be the same because that's technically like the first note you play. It's the pickup, right? Play. So if you can get your students to buy into that, sometimes it's a little bit awkward because at first they're like, oh, this is another step. But I promise you, once it starts feeling more natural, and it will encourage breathing while you play and not make you as like tight. It'll put everybody on the same page in terms of touch, and then hopefully everybody on the same page in terms of where is the attack. It's just like another part of the music that you play before it starts.
Yeah, as many tools as you can give them, give it to them.
Yeah,
because I mean, the downbeat in one should never be taken lightly. As most educators understand that for sure. So the next thing I wanted to kind of bridge over to is the concept of performance, which I'm gonna do my best to be very short and direct on this because I feel like Shelby and I can go 2 hours talking about this. So the biggest thing with for us as the Cavalier staff members is that we want to see you be authentic with your music. We want to see you enjoy it. I mean, it's I don't know, man. It's like you see it's some kids up on a roller coaster and they just look bored. Man, I don't want to go on that roller coaster. I want to go on the fun one. You see them like, throwing around, and they're just like totally bought into the experience. Now you've got me bought into the experience, and I hate roller coasters, but I'll go up on that because that looks like a lot of fun. The same thing with the front ensemble. You're here playing for an audience, like sell it to them. Like what is going on in the storyline, in even your personal storyline in your own head, that you can communicate to them not only sonically but also visually. So here you are performing a show. There is a message coming forward, and so what are we doing to amplify that message? What are we doing to bring the composer or the arranger's thoughts come to life? And when you have a front ensemble all doing that, from the timpani player to the xylophone player, center to the rack player, that's when you start to feel like they kind of have this bubble going on. It's just like, man, they've got a whole vibe, and it is one of the coolest things ever. So we want you as the performer to come out of your shell ASAP and start performing. Dude, if you can do that with some C major green scales, you better do it, man. If I see you like and I mean it's comical, I'll be honest. I mean, I won't laugh at you. Honestly, I'm like, hey, you know what? I like this person because he or she is going after it. They're committed. That's what I want to see, because trying to get them to do when they're the opposite and they're like, no, I just reef notes. Dude,
who
I don't
cares?
Yeah, exactly. I don't care.
Cares?
Yeah, come on. Like fall in love with your music. Give us something, some material there, some visual material. And so those things are just what we want to see you as a player. Now, that's a pretty straightforward conversation. Now we get to chat about, I guess, the juicy part of this conversation. And I'll touch a little bit on it, and I'm going to pass it to Shelby because I want to give her some chance to chat about it. Nothing should compromise the music. Super important. Why are we here? We're here for the music. And it does seem that we kind of get on a little trend where we want to be hopping. And it's just like, what are you doing? Your music's not even together. Like I get what you're doing. You're trying to throw energy and blah, blah, but it's like, it's chaotic, And so when for me, as I ask the players to play at an undeniable level, I tell them effortless mastery is everything. Effortless mastery. If you're making this look like it's really hard, dude, you're doing something really wrong.
Mhm.
Like, now I'm concerned for you versus enjoying what you're doing. I'm like, dude, are you okay? Are you gonna be okay? Because like your music's all off, your head's everywhere, and you're
Your
just like,
muscles are like, "Ugh."
yeah, it's like, behave. Music comes first. How are you amplifying the music? Not
Yes.
how are you beating it down? So okay, that's I'm gonna pass it to Shelby because I'm gonna keep talking about that.
Amplify is the word I was stuck on too. That's good. I think of it because it's getting more and more common that performance is an aspect of what we do, and there is like that theater element to it, and I love that. And that's honestly, as a performer, that was one of my favorite parts. But it has to be genuine. So like we can tell if it's like, oh, this is an angry song, so they're out there like, rah, rah. We don't want to see that. That's not real, and it doesn't feel good. It just feels awkward. But we also like, you got to think about, number one, your body position. I think when people start moving around a lot and doing things, sometimes we don't realize how much it does affect like our platform where our arms are, and how that motion is affecting maybe our note accuracy. So, I mean, just be aware and stay analytical of yourself. I would say the performance thing is something that you have to continue to work at and like experiment with and try. There's so many different levels and subtleties within like your body that you can show, whether it's your eyes or your ears or the angle that your body's positioned, or is your body moving legato or staccato, etc. Don't be afraid to try a whole bunch of new things and try weird things that you haven't before. Always keeping in mind that you better be able to play your music perfectly, primarily. But also, to me, kind of, there's not a hierarchy. I just want you to be able to do all of it. You got, like we talked about, professionalism, and for me, that's what that is a great musician is a performer, and the music is effortless. Yeah, I don't know. It's hardest for me to get my younger students to do it because they feel awkward and embarrassed. And when we talk about it and we say move together, or in this part, you need to, like, it's happy clown music, so you need to emulate that. It's hard to get younger students into that. So if you can start from a young age, like normalizing that and talking about the music beyond just the notes, talking more about the history and the storyline. And even, man, I even did this with my fifth graders some when I used to teach fifth grade band, getting them to listen to something, write down what it makes them think about or what it makes them picture, and then sharing it with the group and talking about it with the group. If we can do that from a young age, then by the time people get up to drum corps age or whatever, that acting will just be hand in hand kind of with the music, and it'll be genuine because it's normal and it's not something that's just thrown onto them once they get into the pageantry arts. And last thing I'll say about that is I also think it helps students connect emotionally with their music more, because they're not just thinking about hands. They do have to be in the mindset of the performer. And I think in that leaves them with a more meaningful impact. The music is more valuable to them. Music, I think, sticks with those students longer and longer if they are emotionally invested like that. So make sure your music is perfect accuracy-wise and that nothing you're doing theatrics affects it. But really dive into that and spend some time on it. It's worth it.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, it makes no sense for you to work on your music first and then add that later. Dude, just do it all at once. You know, learn to play your music with some extra motion. Now, like we mentioned earlier, we don't want the motion to get out of the way, or you need to learn what certain motions do to your music also. There's a lot of times that, like, you know, especially with the pulsing that takes place, going like up and down, up and down. Well, sometimes I find like a lot of groups will add like accents that are nowhere in the music. And I'm like, hey, which one of y'all is the arranger? Who got hired as the arranger? I thought Cliff Walker was the arranger for Cavaliers. Y'all are making up your own stuff. Who's adding the accents? And they're like,
what?
I'm like, exactly. Take those out.
Yeah.
Like, control yourself. Music, guys, music. It's really important. So yeah, we rehearse that stuff and and just, just put yourself out there. And honestly, groups that have like 16 members in it, only 15 members are doing it. If you're the one guy or gal that's not doing it, you look more out of place than they do, I promise.
Loser.
Yeah. Yeah, you look
Yeah.
more out of place. I mean,
But on the
welcome to the
opposite,
club.
yeah, if you only have a couple kids that are doing it, it's a lot of burden on them to get everybody else to perform. So you got to find a way to make it just cool and acceptable, and everybody wants to do it.
Yeah. No, I've gone as far as where I'll actually just bring another marimba out into, like, because we'll be in the band hall, and I'm like, all right, I'm your center now. Match me, and we're gonna jam. Because sometimes the kids, I mean, you're kind of describing all these things and putting images in their head. And some will catch on, but some centers, because really everyone's just matching the center. Like some of them just really need you to be their center for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, you don't got to learn the whole book, but I mean, just get a couple phrases in your hand and your hands, and be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna move the way I want you guys to move. So, modeling for them it should never be past our I guess our wants to getting them there. So I think that's really important. So one of the other things too I want to kind of chat about, since we are talking a little bit about performance and performance quality and being able to help the player, the front ensemble, is this concept of pulsing. I often find that the novice groups or the younger groups that are trying to pulse are like way too rock hard. They're like, yeah. And I just tell them, I'm like, hey, this isn't the 7th grade middle school dance, man. You can relax. Like, you can relax. USA, relax. and so I a lot of times what I do is I just kind of try and like put on some music I don't put on Blink 182 that's doing this. Like, I try and, whether it being like a really backbeat hip hop song or just something that's very laid back, and getting the students to pulse comfortably to that. And so, man, I just want to see you jam.
Yeah.
If you look out of place by rocking out like that, man, like, now we're stepping away again from the concept of effortless mastery. So having some fluidity to your emotions is really important. Students, seriously, record yourselves, listen to it, and then put it on mute the next time you replay it, and watch it. And you can write out a lot of notes. You can tell, because I mean, there's just some people I've had to work with some students where I'm just like, they'll go and audition for some drum corps, and they'll ask me, like, so what do you think? And I'm like, I mean, you're playing the music fine, man. It's just you don't have the look. You look like you're really getting it out, or like your body, like, instead of just being straight, like they're like really in awkward positions, And so for us, in our front ensemble, we want to throw out the impression that every single member has the utmost confidence that they're there to do everything they're going to do perfectly. So I'm talking like shoulders back, chin up, just a very confident approach of coming forward, and not being so caved in and so like, come on, put yourself out there. Not only sonically through music, you're going to play through the bar, you're going to show us what you got, show us how we can help you, but also, I mean, like, your body language says everything. I mean, seriously. And honestly, even for me as a teacher, I can tell you, all my students know this about me. Like, I cannot hide my face or my body language if you play a certain way. Like, and vice versa. I know obviously some people are thinking like, well, yeah, duh, when people play bad. But like, when you play really well, dude, I guarantee I will jump off the mountain, screaming, hollering for you, be like, that's my pit right there, man. Like, I am your number one fan. I'm your biggest cheerleader. And so, but the same thing also happens to me whenever, like, you don't play so well. I'm like, I do this kind of thing. Like, I was telling Shelby that, like, for some reason, pits that are dirty, it's weird. It sounds like someone breaking glass right in front of me. I'm like, can you stop? It's just like, I don't know. That's the sound that I hear, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, so a lot of these things that I learned as a player, as a performer, they've even got grown up with me on like my body language. And body language is everything. When you're having a conversation with somebody, if they're not like looking at you in the eye, or they're not facing you and they're just talking to you with you over here, I mean, that's just weird. It's like, what's going on? You okay? So a lot of those concepts of performance and pulsing, we just want everything to look as confident and natural as possible. As soon as we start stepping away from that, it's like, this is getting awkward, And so a lot of the novice groups, I just feel like they're trying so hard, and most likely because they're watching YouTube videos, and that's okay. But coaching the students on how to watch these videos too, how to be listening, what to listen for. It's a whole journey. I mean, just telling a student, just go watch videos and come back with it learned. It's like, oof, man, they're gonna see a lot of things. And they won't know how to interpret it, because not everything believe it or not everything on the internet is really good.
What? Yeah, I like to share videos and have the kids talk about things they like and things they didn't like. And even if you're watching, I like to pull up videos of awesome groups playing awesome, and then still have the kids tear them apart. And at first, they might not be able to tear them apart in a good, critical way, not in a hateful way. At first the kids won't really know how to, but you need to train their eyes to look for that, and to look for their preference too, of like, hey, that dude looked cool when he did that. I wonder if I could wow, I'm adding that in, and kind of growing from that. And for some students, they even need it written down. Like, they need to have a physical list of, this is the name of the video, these are the 3 things I liked, this is what I didn't like. Because just that discussion, it's easy to check out, And when we're doing virtual stuff, that's the best time to do some of that. Yeah. And one other thing I thought about with the body motion stuff is, even though we're talking about everything looking uniform and perfect and straight, when it comes to the body motion, it needs to be in time together. But I don't think that everybody needs to look exactly the same, because not everybody moves the same and not everybody jams the same. So like, it's cool if your students still have their little individuality shining through. We want that. Just as so long as anybody in the ensemble can still see, oh, there's the downbeat, it's right there.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's, I know for myself, I started marching drum corps in 2008, and I had some great teachers there. Robert Boteo was one of them, and that helped me along the way. But I remember when the Cavaliers pit is the pit that I ended up aging out with, and I remember watching that Cavaliers pit in 2008, and that was probably the biggest thing, is like, they were all moving together. They were pushing the same message out forward, but each of them just kind of said it a little bit differently. And one of the players that stuck out to me the most was Mike Olson. I haven't really carried a conversation with him, but when I watched him play, I remember thinking, man, I want to look like that guy. Like, my eyes were just so drawn to his energy. And for every kid, it's a different person. They kind of get drawn to a different person. So I always kind of make it like a fun little project for my students I just tell them, hey, I want you to go find your person that you're trying to draw energy. It's always kind of awkward, and they're like, oh, I found this video of you, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I was like 50 pounds lighter then. But yeah, but I mean, I just want, like, go find that energy that you're like, man, that is the kind of person I actually am more like. And I want to see how I can amplify that. Whatever we can do to get that student to just come out of their shell, just be confident, and just put on a show. Really, that's what we're here for. We're here to put on a show. And so just kind of getting all the students to that point, which is a challenge in itself. I totally get that. This is, at this point, we're just doing this, but the walk in the walk, that's a whole different thing. It's constant reminder. It's like, hey, that was a pretty good rep. Did we perform though? No. Well, do it again, because then they start moving. Then you start noticing things are a little dirtier. Well, yeah, because you had me. I'm over here listening with my head down. I'm clicking, and I'm not watching you. And yeah, it's getting cleaner, but you literally cleaned this with half the work done. It's like, come on, like, let's do that again, but let's put in all the pieces, all the ingredients that need to be in there. Super, super important, right? Because we don't want to be skipping steps.
Yeah.
You know, we ain't got that time, man.
That's more work.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Shelby, if you don't have anything else, I think we can pass it over to.
I want to watch them play so that we can pick them apart like we were talking about.
Yeah. I think you're still on mute, Mr. Gilbert. Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Guys, I was soaking it all in. I don't know if you could see me in the back room. I was like, yes, and clapping to what you guys were saying. I went a little bit live on Instagram and invited people over. And I was in that video, I was telling them, like, gold nuggets of information are being dropped. They're raining. That's beautiful. And to be able to be here and ask you questions, guys, that's incredible. And one thing that I'm sure the viewers and then those that catch the replay are gonna see is your willingness and your the willingness and the character behind as you share. You guys are having fun, talking to us, and I was like, man, this is beautiful.
It is fun.
Yes, I want to learn from this kind of people, and I'm sure everybody that's watching agrees. We're having a conversation and we're having fun, but we're learning.
Yeah.
World class concepts. That's how you teach them. That's beautiful. And I as an spectator back here, I was like, yes, this is the kind of stuff I like to hear. Guys, I am super stoked for that video that Rick sent. I did have to adjust it a little bit on the audio. Okay. He was having a bit of a hard time because he's where there's like very poor internet, right where he's at, and so that our viewers can know, what we really wanted to do. Well, not me. What the staff wanted to do is to have the ensemble perform for you live, but the internet is so weak in that area, it was not going to happen. So the second best thing was to record them. So here we go.
What is up, guys? It's Drewry. Behind me is the Cavaliers Drum and Bugle Front Ensemble. And we are so happy to be here with you today at the Valley Percussion Festival. Thank you so much for having us out. Today we're going to be sharing with you a few of our exercises and are ending with a lot tune. The first exercise that we're going to be performing for you today is entitled Blocks. Now, blocks is kind of our first fundamental exercise that we start off the season with. And the reason being is because it engages the most basic technical skill sets that we're going to need to perform our show, especially the double vertical strokes and single independent strokes. We hope you enjoy blocks. The second exercise we're going to play for you today is one entitled Broccoli. Now, one thing to note when we play broccoli is make sure that you're looking out for home base. And we've used this word a lot in the Cavaliers. The idea behind home base is that our mallets are in perfect alignment from player to player to the individual mallets, individual mallet. The idea is that the mallet travels in two directions, down to engage the instrument and back up to home base. And for us, that creates the most consistent sound quality. So without further ado, broccoli. Exercise that we're going to share with you today is our inside mallet exercise. Now, we have to do a lot of training with insides here at the Cavaliers because a lot of what you might play with 2 mallets back at home, we have to play with 4 mallets. So we got to do a lot of chopping out and training. This is our inside mallet exercise. Last thing we're going to share with you today is probably one of our most nearest and dearest lot tunes to our heart. And it's entitled Beetlejuice, composed by Annie Elfman, and arranged by one of our most beloved alumnuses, Rob Pastor. Please share with us this wonderful opportunity to perform for you today. Nice, guys. Look forward to seeing you in 2022. Thank you so much, Valley Percussion Festival, for having us share our wonderful first 2 days of drum corps with you guys. Namaste.
Wow. Wow. So that's how the big boys do it.
Yeah.
Guys, I am so grateful to with all of you, with Shelby, Randy, and Rick, and the ensemble. Your willingness to be able to be here and share, and again, for those of you that are watching this and that will catch the replay, guys, the only way that we usually, and even now with technology, even in today, the only way that some of us can really experience that is if we go, right? If we actually go and are there in the parking lot and get some footage ourselves, right? But the fact that this kind of technology can be employed, and we literally, where are they right now? Where were they rehearsing, guys?
Some high school in Michigan, maybe.
In Michigan,
Yeah.
okay.
Where are they? Are they in Michigan right now?
I just know they're off in the Midwest, and yeah, it's the housing sites changed
Okay.
from the first schedule that came out, so that's kind of why we're
Okay.
not too sure.
So they're probably Michigan. And guys, right now, we just literally brought Michigan. We brought the lot, and we were standing right there watching. How cool is that? How cool is that? And not only that, but we had two of their staff members sharing what what you saw right now that they were playing, guys, and all the concepts that they were trying, that they were doing. The thing is, these two fine gentlemen and lady, Randy and Shelby, along with Rick Drewry, they've been working with them. For how long have you guys been working with them?
Oh man. So I mean, at this point, since 2020, came out from under us, we didn't stop working, and like every music educator in the U.S., I mean, you didn't stop working. You were like, well, we're just gonna have to plan on that music's coming back, and we're gonna be there to show that we didn't take a day off. So honestly, we've been working since 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys were doing virtual stuff. Shelby, you were saying something like that before off screen.
Right. I think the dudes have been getting together once a week for just kind of more of a music educators discussion amongst themselves, like every Thursday. That's been going on for a while. I think that's cool. But then on Saturdays, we've for the whole month of June, we've been treating it like Saturday is rehearsal day, kind of just getting ready virtually. And then, even last year when there wasn't a DCI for a year, we were getting ready for a PASIC performance, and the students were sending in videos for that and putting a lot of work into that. So yeah, I think the expectation of music's not going away, so when it comes back, we need to be ready. We're seeing the fruits of our labor, so that's exciting.
Yes, 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 yes. Wow. Yes, I did notice that, and there was fluidity to what they were doing. There was power to what they were doing. I mean, all the good elements, all the good elements. You could see them, in action. And
Yeah.
so again, peeps that are sharing with us and watching. Uh, that's what this channel is all about. That's what Valley Percussion Festival is all about, to bring world-class education to you. And before COVID, yes, it brought quite a bit of bad things, but it's leaving a lot of good stuff behind. um, Valley Percussion Festival had been going on for 30 years. Okay, 30 years. And it was not till COVID hit that it kind of forced us to go virtual. And a lot of people during the VPF 2021 were asking me, like, dude, how did you do it to get all this massive artists and all this, how did you get Steve Gadd, on the bill? How did you, and the thing is, it wasn't something that was overnight, guys. Valley Percussion Festival has been going on for 30 years, like Robert Woteo said in the video earlier. And now, in other words, it was already set in motion, kind of like, what you guys were saying. You kept practicing and practicing and working and working. And then so when you come and you plug it in, it's pretty much plug and play to a good degree, right? And that's how Valley Percussion Festival has, I've had a lot of people telling me it's an overnight sensation. No, it's not. It's been going on 30 years. It's barely, coming to the world virtually, but it's, yeah. And that's the whole concept behind it, guys, to share world-class percussion education with all of us. And when I mean share, I include myself, because I'm here watching with you guys, learning, yes, and enjoying every second of it. So yes. And guys, any last words that you might want to say to our viewers? Maybe something along the lines of recruitment.
Yeah, just know, well, first of all, man, hey, thanks for having us today. This was fun. Randy and I went to school together, and we really do just like hanging out and talking about this stuff, and we are really passionate about it. So this is a lot of fun. Just recruitment-wise, dudes, the auditions start up usually late October, early November. And so if you want this and you're hungry for this, get it rolling. Find a packet and start practicing as soon as it's going to take you to be prepared. And just don't, kind of like we already talked about, don't be afraid. Don't cut yourself before you even get there because you're nervous or you're holding yourself back. Go with a friend. If you're being a chicken, make them come. And even if you're 14 years old and you show up and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm way out of my league, whatever, I promise you'll leave fired up, and you'll leave being like, okay, I'm hungry for that. I'm going to make it happen. That's my goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I noticed with some students, and I'm going to connect with your comment, Shelby, but from the opposite side of the fence. Students and teachers, just get your students to go. And if they don't feel prepared, even more so, so that they can see, like, oh, so that's where I need to be. Because if we don't send them because they're not there, they never will be.
Yep.
Very likely. Yeah. And so I've seen it when students go to auditions and then come back and it's like, I know I'm not going to make it, but I'm going to go back.
Yes.
Yeah. That my 2 cents worth from the opposite side of the fence. I know I interrupted you, Randy. I apologize.
It's really funny because you literally said what I was going to say, which is directors, I mean, okay, we know that parents will do whatever their kids want with in terms of if they're passionate, and especially like the camps like in Texas, like the hard thing about them being in Dallas for Cavaliers is that now the people in South Texas have to drive like 9 hours. And sometimes will have them in Austin, so you drive about 5 hours, but it's still a long drive, and I get that. But man, if the kids are sold on it and they're passionate about it, they can team up with the parents, and because I've had this where I've had my percussion students come out to the Cavaliers camp. Dude, okay, yeah, none of them made it. Well, I guess one of them did, right, in the long run. But yeah, but like they didn't necessarily make the group. But trust me, when they came back to me, it's almost like I didn't even I had to tell them to get out of the band hall because they wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
They were just like, yeah, like they were so like, I want to just drum it, and I want to show up next year and make an impression because they love the experience. So directors, like, send your kids on over to us. I mean, think about it. They're playing with us nonstop Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They have no choice but to get better. And to be more bought into the concept. We're not, trust me, we're not going to go play. Wow, that was bad. Go home, next, play. That's just not what we do. What we want everybody to learn something, because quite frankly, we are expecting you to make that group at some point. And so like, even if like they, like you said, like even if they don't show up with it, learn, we will give you something to do. So maybe it's like, okay, like this individual just doesn't need to be, they just don't know the notes. Hey man, how about you just come over here off on the side, and I want you to play the permutations on the floor. I'm gonna watch you play that on the floor, and you're still gonna get better. I'm not just gonna have you like stand there really confused. Like, I want you to get better. Shelby wants you to get better. Rick wants you. The Cavaliers want you to get better. Come out, audition, and if anything else, just come out and learn. And like Gilbert talked about, you're also as a student and as teachers, your students are going to be playing next to those people who end up making those groups. And there's going to be a lot of clarity to some of the things that you're talking about as an educator when you're like, guys, you really need to record yourself. You really need to play in front of a mirror. And then what's going to happen is they're going to ask those students, because they're like really close in age anyways. They're like, hey, so like, how do I get to what you're doing? And as teachers, you already know this. What ends up happening when another teacher talks to your student? They say the same thing you've been telling them the whole time, but now all of a sudden it resonates with them. Yeah. Like seriously, send them over to us so we can help those words of education that I know you've been telling them. Allow us to help you, amplify that and get it to resonate with them, so that they can come back to your programs. I mean, and then they can come back to your programs being leaders, strong players, and they're just so much more bought in. Trust me, we want to help as many people as possible. That is our goal. Our goal is to not be cutting people. We want to teach people. That's what we do. We are teachers.
Yeah. And send them to PASIC too. Take them to PASIC.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, there you have it, guys. I could go on rambling myself on a recap, because there was so much stuff that was said. But guys, send them to audition, catch the replay, subscribe to our YouTube channel. G Drums is the YouTube channel, the official Valley Percussion Festival, the official Valley Percussion Festival YouTube channel, and the Valley Percussion Festival page on Facebook and Instagram. With all this, guys, I really hope, guys, and right now I'm speaking to our listeners and viewers. I really hope that this segments and this streams and definitely including today's, but the ones that we've done in the past and the ones that are to come, like tomorrow, for example, I really hope that they connect with you and that you become a fan, not much of the channel, but a fan of what we share. Because if we do that, I think it's going to help not just us a lot, but our students a lot. So there you have it. So guys,
Hi there, Klaus Hessler here. I'm excited to announce that I'll be doing an online segment for the Valley Percussion Festival. Next Saturday, July 3rd, including rudiments, smaller technique, and some drum set applications. Hi there, Klaus Hessler here. I'm excited to announce that I'll be doing an online segment for the Valley Percussion Festival next Saturday, July 3rd, including rudiments, smaller technique, and some drum set applications, including a little PDF for you to study along with me. Spread the word with your drumming buddies. Excited to see you there online. Until then, be safe and see you next Saturday, okay? July 3rd, Valley Percussion Festival. Yee-hoo! Off you go.